Now everywhere you see during Halloween, a bunch of people wearing bamboo gags in their mouth. Like, oh, that's appropriate for children.
Yeah.
Um,
Teach them kids.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, a podcast about games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. With me, the man with 100 voices, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing all right. Doing fine today. How about yourself, Joe?
Could be better. Could be better. I tweaked my back, so
Your back's all
I'm
jacked
I'm kind
up
of stuck.
from doing
Yeah,
them wrestling moves with your kids.
yeah. They know no limits. They have no fear as well, which you know, you got to be there to rescue them when they decide to jump off the couch.
Your son, your son power bombing you.
Uh, luckily, doesn't really know how to DDT quite yet, but I'll be there to show him that.
What's a DDT? I forgot.
I forget to,
I
dude. I haven't watched wrestling. I haven't
I,
done
re-
wrestling since I was
I
like
remember that
6.
when I was in elementary school. People, other dudes talking about doing like DDT or something like that. I was like, you guys are crazy. I didn't know. I didn't watch any wrestling like they did. My mom wouldn't stand for it. But,
Well, that's good because you were living down south anyways, and I
dude,
remember
yeah, I dodged that bullet. But
I was
also,
living in Georgia during like the late '90s,
yeah,
mid to late '90s, and that's like Stone Cold Steve Austin and all them. Like that was like peak. Everyone, that was when back when it was still WWF. Uh, and then you had like, was that
yeah.
NWO and all that stuff was birthed around that time, and
The
it's
Rock
just
was.
I absolutely hated the kids who talked about wrestling because they were some of the dumbest kids alive.
I always say
Uh,
this. I wish I liked wrestling because it's really cool to listen to people talk about. But when you actually watch it, it's like this is so silly.
well, it's one of those things that when if you watch it as a show, like as a evening drama, then you're like, okay, I can get, and you're
Yeah.
also half in the bag. You're like, I can get behind this.
Well,
But
it's
for
all
me,
the
I was always
stuff that happens behind it, the off stage and even like behind the camera. Like all of the real, like all the business stuff is what's really cool about it. And then I don't know, I guess you just have to be in for that kind of stupidity,
yeah,
which
that was the problem. That was the problem is I wanted to watch the wrestling, and I just remember turning like trying to get into it, like just because that's all the other kids. I'm like, let me see, and like all they're doing is talking. They're just talking. And I'd leave, come back, like to watch something else, go back during commercial break, and like they're still talking. They're not wrestling at all. And I realized, oh, I just have to watch like the last like 5 minutes, and then you can actually get some wrestling in. Actually, it's more like the last 10 minutes because then the last 5 minutes is more talking. So like you got that 5 minutes before the 5 minutes final. Yeah, I'm like, all right, that's pretty bad.
yeah.
Uh, and that was like that's the thing is just like it's fun to listen to people talk passionately about something even if you're not interested in it because their enthusiasm is contagious. And when
Yeah.
you're seeing like and that is something that's always cool. Like, yeah, I may not be into like, like painting, but like when you watch someone like, like Bob Ross, just the way he talks, it's like, yeah, okay. Like this is something you somehow hypnotized me. You got me into your zone. I'm
Well,
not gonna paint, but I
yeah, I
like to
mean,
watch you paint.
like the hypnotizing thing is like perfectly appropriate because it's like that's why you watch all that talking. You have the talking, you have the wrestling, you have some more talking, and then you have like the like heel turn, chair to the folding chair to the back of the head of the guy that just won, and you're like, oh no, holy crap, and that's the end, and you're like, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next time? You watch it for the heel turn. That's or the redemptive, like whatever, what do you call it, face turn. Isn't that heel and face? Isn't that it?
Heel and babyface. I've watched enough podcasts that talk about wrestling. Uh,
It's just thinking about all the things that Dan Reichert says. I feel like face. I feel like it's heel is the bad guy, but a face is like, well, face is going to be like the face of the franchise, But I feel like that was like the good one. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But there's so much good lingo in wrestling too. That's really, I don't know. I feel like apt for real life.
Yeah, but like the face or the baby face was always the hero person.
Yeah, that must be
And so that
okay.
was I forgot there was recently a Reddit someone posted on Reddit.
Take a
It was
bump.
like I forget. Yeah, well, they were talking. I forgot who it was. It was someone talking about like one of the other celebrities, and he goes, "Yeah, at the time I was babyface," and apparently some fan got up on stage and was literally trying like he was in the middle of a move, or he was in the middle of a grapple. Some fan runs up on stage and starts like trying to attack him from behind, and so even though uh, I forget who the other person was, like they even though they weren't like uh they were the heel. They were like, yeah, I'm gonna like. They came in and helped the main guy out because he's like, it's like uh, the dude who was talking was like, we understand you pay good money, you want to see you want to be a part of the action, you want to speak and stuff, and you can be loud, you can be you can it's like so long as you don't touch us, and so long as like the moment you walk into that ring, like all bets are off. Up until then, you can yell, you can swear, you can hold up the banners, you can do like gestures, all that stuff. That's fine because the moment you step in the ring, you're fair game, and that's exactly what the other dude did. Is he just took out this fan right there, grabbed security took him out, and it's just like he's like, I will never forget that dude like watching out for my back,
Yeah,
uh
yeah, because you don't know what that fan's gonna do. You have
well,
no idea.
nowadays for sure it's even
Yeah,
worse nowadays.
he could have a
um
knife. You have no idea. And so, yeah, sorry, man, you're gonna get clotheslined. And freaking,
so yeah, enough talking about a topic that we actually don't care
we
about.
don't care
Not
about
this.
wrestling at all. We wish
So
we
yeah,
did.
if you're not a fan of wrestling, then come to us. If you hate us for hating wrestling, well,
That's okay. We
go
probably
ahead and try to correct
it was
us.
never
We'll
gonna
ignore you.
work anyway. Yeah, just leave a note in the comments.
uh, Directed at Nick.
That's
He's the one
fine.
who's currently a Southerner.
I can take it. I can take it. I can take a bump. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, of Coke. All right.
Yeah, that too.
What do you got for the news, buddy? You got some interesting things that have come on the docket.
Yeah. So I texted you earlier this week. It was like Monday or Tuesday. Because the PS5 Pro specs have leaked, apparently. And really, I mean, maybe there's more to it that's coming. Maybe we just got a partial leak or whatever. I don't even know where this actually came from, but Video Games Chronicle was reporting. I don't know who they're getting it from, but um, anyway, that the specs for the PS5 Pro have leaked, and it's going to have nearly three times as much teraflops, but that doesn't mean it's going to be three times better or faster. Um, that there's like a lot of like blah blah blah. It's going to be this and this, but basically, so Moore's Law is dead is the organization, the YouTuber that leaked this. And they're suggesting, they said that it's about 45% faster. So that's good, but I don't know. I feel like, I guess it's not going to really be any graphically better than 4K as far as pixels are concerned or anything like that. But I was hoping that we'd get more than just like faster render times because I don't really feel like they're all that bad to begin with. But there might be more information that comes later. Anyway, so that's kind of the long and short of it. There's also going to be a high CPU frequency mode, which increases the CPU by 10%, but reduces GPU performance by 1% as a result. So that's kind of a weird little thing going on there. I don't know what you'd really need that for, what games you would need that for specifically. Can you think of anything that would
All right,
make
so
sense?
the big things for this is, yeah, like you mentioned before, the teraflops being, even though it's three times the teraflops, it's probably not even, like I said, I told you before we recorded, it's not even going to be double the power. You're also looking at the fact that the GPU frequency is dropping. So the teraflops go up, but the GPU frequency has gone down. It still can do more, but the big thing to this is, the CPU is still on the Zen 2 architecture, and because they're not switching, there's going to be a lot of other issues if they decide to switch archetypes at this point. So that you're trying to keep it more or less within the same wheelhouse, and you can't really make it a substantial upgrade because anything comes out still needs to target the current PS5
Yeah.
as the baseline. So you can't necessarily make, like, it's if you create too big of a disparity there, you're gonna then have you're gonna make your current system look bad, and you can't do that. You can't, like this. It's one thing to make it look better, but you can't make it look like absolutely great or like a huge wow factor on the new machines. So the big one, currently there is a lot of issues with this current generation of consoles hitting. Essentially, the big bottleneck is CPU performance.
Okay.
So that's where a lot of stuttering is happening. Games, a lot of games will benefit from a better CPU architecture. Now, another reason why you can't pump and make this thing like so much better, kind of like the big difference there was a bigger difference between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. If you look at the percentages compared to the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, at least these numbers currently, because you can't make as big of an uplift without having a bigger power draw, and that's the big problem. Is you have to make this thing only consume so much power, unless if you're going to overhaul this whole system and be like, well, now we're going to put in a different power supply. We have to, and then it becomes a whole new beast altogether. Once again, when you start doing that, you're creating a bigger gulf from the original to the Pro model, and yeah, it's one of those things that the big aspect for this is going to be, things like ray tracing. You should be able to do those features better,
Okay.
and also a lot of the AI generation stuff. Like if you can be able to generate frames and make it hit more stable, a higher 60, essentially a lock 60, opposed to an unstable when you get a lot of them, or doing upgrading the quality mode to hit higher frame rates as well. So that's about it. It's a incremental upgrade, but a lot of the AI stuff, I think that's going to be the best way to look at it. And that's just like, there's a lot more to it that honestly is just over my head, but that
Yeah.
is like the big takeaway is it'll be, if you have a nice enough TV or nice enough monitor to really take advantage of it, then it's really going to help. For me, I'm playing on mostly 1080 or 1440p monitors, so therefore it doesn't really. I don't need the 4K bump for a lot of my stuff, and my 4K TV is old enough that I don't have VRR anyways, so it's not really the
Yeah.
most ideal situation for me.
Yeah. There's something
When they
else.
first mentioned the PS4 Pro or PS5 Pro, my joke was they can finally do 8K the way it was meant to be, because my PS5, if you look at the box, it says 8K.
Mhm.
So still waiting for that.
Yeah, I don't know why they put that. Dang, that's morons.
It was dumb.
Yeah. Um, so there was also something about there's apparently going to be something upscaling and anti-aliasing features are also listed in the specs. So that's kind of probably a better 4K, like you were kind of mentioning. That's kind of cool. Yeah, they're going to be held back by the original PS5. 45% faster does sound nice, but I don't really feel like the PS5 as it is slow. I don't feel like it needs to be any faster. With the games that I've played, I mean, things can always be faster, it can always be better. I get it, but I'm kind of looking at this. I'm kind of looking at my PS5, and I'm seeing these specs here, and it's going to come out. So far we think it's going to come out this Christmas or this fall, maybe.
That's what they were talking like the holiday season.
Yeah.
At least that's what the rumors say.
So all that is to say, I just don't know if I'm going to need one of these. If I'm gonna have to make a choice between a PS5 Pro and a Nintendo Switch 2, I'm gonna pick the Nintendo Switch 2 because that's gonna be a bigger leap for that thing, and I'm also not gonna be able to play Switch 2 games on my old Switch, but I am gonna be able to play PS5 games on a PS5. So I don't know. I I just feel like this is something that either I need more information about or I'm not gonna need right away, or maybe not at all. Because if the PS6 is only 3 years away, or maybe 4 years away, then I might be able to make it the whole run. I don't know. Like, do you think it's going to be worth it for very many people, or do you think it's kind of just to get people who don't already have one into the game?
All right, so that's a hard thing to speculate. One of the reasons why a lot of things feel like, oh, we're currently doing really solid right now at this very moment is because a lot of the games that have already come out have been multi-generational, right?
Yeah.
You got games, that were originally baselined for the PS4, or like they maybe were baseline for the PS5, but they also had to have it scalable to the PS4. Um, so there's very few games. Pretty much within this last year has really been the first set of games where like we built it from the ground up only for the PS5, and that optimization is going to get better. People are going to, because always, if the games, if you look at it now, like that, like this will be the big turning point because for it's always at the end of a generation, console's life cycle that you realize, hey, these games are amazing and they've really did it well. They pushed the envelope to the limit, and it's like kind of like when you look at something like The Last of Us, the original, not on the PS4. It came in later in the life, and you're like, wow, this is amazing what this console can do. So it depends on how hard they push these PS5 games and to what extent, because we can start to see possibly more issues come up. But also, it's one of those things that if you don't pay enough attention, you may not notice the differences. So long as it's the foliage density or how the foliage reacts to you, or something like that, the
Mm.
shadowing. Now, if you don't really have a keen eye and you really just don't care, then chances are you'll be fine. You can, if you're one of the people who's like, yeah, I don't necessarily have a 4K OLED TV.
Mm.
I just play on a, like
Well,
1080 or 1440p monitor.
you know,
Then a lot of that stuff, you won't need to push your system that hard. It depends on what the new game's coming out. That's the big difference. Is what the stuff in the future, how hard it'll really push it.
I
Because
know,
for
but like,
me,
good. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, man, it's for me the PS4 Pro. The reason why I went with them, like I that was my first PlayStation, was the Pro model, but that was because I was solely focused on PSVR, and I knew that it was not the greatest experience. I mean, it was still good, but it was nowhere near as like on the basic model of PS4. So when the Pro came out, it came out with enough upgrades to run the PlayStation VR a lot smoother, and that was the ideal way to play it. So that's what I did. Is I waited till the PS4 Pro and then got it. But also, I was living overseas. It was a really hard time to get it, and if you weren't there in Hawaii to receive my packages for me, I probably wouldn't have gotten the PS4 at all.
I mean, yeah, like whenever that was coming out, uh, listening to we didn't have a podcast at the time, but the people that I listened to, like Giant Bomb and stuff, they were like, yeah, the PS4, it sounds like a rocket taking off sometimes, and also the load times are really super long. So a PS4 Pro was, it was being talked about as being almost totally necessary, and then especially by the end of that system's life cycle, they, like it could barely run, God of War or God of War 2 or whatever it was, I guess. So I guess God of War, which one of those, was having a hard time running on the original PS4, and a bunch of other games similarly. So like that seemed like a good, like a, hey, hey, you need to buy this. Like if you're a PS4 day one purchaser, and you have a lot of games or you have a podcast about video games, then you're going to need the PS4 Pro. But I am having a hard time seeing why I would need a PS5 Pro when it comes out. I think that you're right. By the time like the life cycle of the PS5 is fully over, and the PS6 is about to come out, then I will probably be like, yeah, that last year, year and a half at least, maybe more. I'm gonna have to own a PS5 Pro just to kind of be on par with games and where they're at, to not just be annoyed to death with performance. But I don't know. I just think it's. I think you said this already that the jump here that we're staring down the barrel of is not really as big a deal as it was with the PS4. So I don't know. It's kind of like, I kind of just expected a bigger jump, but also now that I'm really thinking about it, the situation is different. The PS5 is a more capable system than the PS4 was, I think. But I don't know.
Yeah, and then the big question is, of course, from anyone else who hasn't owned a system yet, their question is going to be, well, should I get the PS5 Pro, or should I wait to the PS6 because you've already waited this long? And it's kind of that's going to be the next debate, like you hear forever on like anything.
Well, see, that's the other thing is like if I don't need a PS5 Pro and I wait like 2 years from now when it's been out for a year and it looks like the PS6 is going to come out in 2 more years and I have hopefully by then a better GPU for my PC, then it's like, I'll just play games on my PC until the PS6 comes out, I don't know. But then maybe by then we'll have our Patreon set up and we'll be rolling in millions of dollars, and then I'll be able to just buy them all. I'll have like 2 of every one for no reason.
Tax expensive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have like triple 4090s mining Bitcoin for me. Yeah.
For science, right? You'll just
Science.
document the process. Yeah. All right. So that's really about it for the PS5 Pro specs leaks. I mean, there's honestly, if you go to Digital Foundry, they have a really long form discussion about it, and they go in depth pretty good. I rather enjoyed listening to them talk about it. So I would recommend if you want if you TLDR kind of thing, or if you just prefer to like listen to it, then I would go ahead and listen to them. But it's like an hour and a half long discussion just on the their opinions on the PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
But yes, then all right, what else we got here?
The United States is suing Apple over cloud gaming. Essentially, basically, they're saying that Apple barring cloud gaming on their phones is an attempt to force consumers to buy the newest phones, because if cloud gaming was allowed on Apple iPhones, I guess Apple products in general, then people wouldn't need to buy the newest hardware because they could just have an app that was running all of that stuff elsewhere and just basically just streaming it straight to your phone or whatever. And they make a good point, they make a good point. So this is similar to where Apple kind of just lost in the EU. It seems like the walled garden's going to come down a little bit. I don't know about all the way, but come down a little bit for Apple, because of the what do you call it? It's not really. Is it antitrust? I guess it's antitrust or anti-consumer policies that they've had with keeping other services off of their devices. But yeah, so that's what the United States is saying. Apple says they're going to defend themselves on this matter. But I mean, if the United States is suing you, they probably did their homework before they brought it. So I doesn't look good for Apple.
We're usually
This
pretty lazy when it comes to the legislation. So yeah, if we're actually willing to pick that up, then yeah, there's probably going to be a decent decent event coming up. So grab your popcorn.
yeah, yeah. I kind of I don't know. I think they'll. I mean the it's yeah. There's just too many facets now. There's just too many ways that you can get other stuff onto phones that I don't think Apple can really do this anymore without it being anti-consumer. Um, you can't really like in the old days, like let's say like 2010 or whatever. Cloud gaming wasn't really a factor. Um, Netflix and all that stuff was still not new, but um, things just weren't as easy to get on phones and iPads and stuff. Uh, and there wasn't as much there wasn't like a track record for how these services worked. And so you have like Android and stuff that's showing how all these things, how they can work, and it's totally fine. So it is becoming kind of glaring, like that Apple is like, you're just trying to keep this stuff out so you can force people to pay you more money and not have to share. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of the long and short of that. I don't really know what's going to happen with it, but I think Apple is going to, even if they don't, even if the U.S. doesn't win on this, it'll probably be because Apple like settled out of court, maybe if they can at this point, and probably voluntarily, they're gonna probably voluntarily change some stuff in order to keep from getting sued over and over again from now on. But we'll see what happens.
All right. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that we usually like to let the EU do all our heavy lifting for us when
Yeah,
it comes to suing Apple. I mean, Apple's too much of a moneymaker in our country, so it's actually like I said, it's interesting to see them uh, pull up a case, especially a weird edge case like this, because I feel like uh, I'm kind of curious who's decided to pull this up, being like, hey, let's sue them on gaming. It's kind of
I think
like
it's part of a
it's a
larger
weird one.
suit. It's just like that's what was mentioned on Video Games Chronicle
Okay.
is that aspect. I think there is more, but I don't know. I didn't dig all the way into it. There might be a lot more, but it was enough of a centerpiece, I guess, of a main point of the suit that it's worth mentioning.
Okay. All right. All right. What else you got?
Um, 2/3 of game development studios are using AI. Frankly, I was surprised that it was that low. I figured it would be at this point would be 100% of game studios are using AI in some capacity. I mean, like to write emails or something, at the very least. But
You've
like,
seen how email dictation from that Golem one went. That when the yeah, that was pretty terrible. But yeah, as I don't know, when it comes to AI, like in studios, I'm curious what qualifies. I mean, you got stuff like you can probably set up an AI program to do foliage in the background, right? Not every tree is going to be specially put down by every single person, every blade of grass. You have programs for that. So kind of curious if they have AI to, in what aspects are going to be using AI for in the future, as far as like generating, different, like you didn't use AI before to generate probability for this, that, or the other thing. So I'm kind of curious how they're using AI to like dynamically change things.
what
Uh,
what the article said, I do remember, even though I haven't pulled up right now, is they were using it for world building, concept design, concept art, essentially, and like story writing. So a lot of that kind of creative stuff. So, okay, so I have used a little bit of AI generation. I used Midjourney for a little while, and I was pretty impressed with some of the stuff that it could do. But I used it in like a D and D context. So like I could have it basically make me a character, and that worked pretty well. And it'll do all kinds of stuff, but a lot of it is really, I don't know, there's something just sort of soulless about it, something just kind of generic about it, almost no matter what you have it do so far. And the writing, like ChatGPT's writing, is pretty boring. I've never read anything interesting that I, knowingly at least, that came verbatim from ChatGPT or an AI writer. So I think that they're, if they're using it, which if I had a game company, I would be freaking using it, at least for all the preliminary stuff. But that's the only thing I can really see it being really useful for. Like I think finalizing stuff, you still want a person to touch all that stuff up at the very least, because AI, it just looks kind of generic. I've never seen anybody do anything with it that was really like, oh, that's really cool and unique. But I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
I know that the concept arts and stuff like that, like being able to give it a couple ideas and say, "Hey, draw me something based off of these themes." That's kind of neat. But yeah, all right. I'm kind of curious. I can see, unfortunately, more studios going into more heavy AI workloads just to weed out some of the tedium. But
Yeah.
then, it's one of those. It's always the doom saying, right? Like, well, this, how much of it, to what point is it okay, and then what point of it's going to be ruining the medium. So
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's the inevitable future, though. Unfortunately, so it's like, so as you can try pushing back, but unless that something goes wrong, like really wrong, it's just the inevitability is here. So
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I was just surprised, honestly, that it's only 2/3. I think it's probably a little more than that. People are just lying or don't know that's what's going on inside their studios.
someone's like, "Shut up, guys! This is how I've been skating by for the last 2 years based off of this."
I'm working
You
on
know.
like 8 games right now from my house because of
But all
AI.
right. Yeah. So long as my superiors don't know about it, that's still okay. All right. What's the last bit of news you got here?
Um, this is just a blurb. So, a new Xbox dev kit has been certified in South Korea. Um, this would probably be bigger news on another week, but yeah. So I think they're just saying this is basically just confirmation that they're making a new Xbox at some point. Um, and yeah. So I don't think there's anything else that's known about it. Just that it's they got a dev kit for it. It's going around. They're going to make games for it. And so the end is not nigh for Xbox physical.
I mean, well, they've already talked about how how that it's they were making a new one, and it was going to be the most powerful one yet to date. I'm like, well, of course, that's how you do it. You make your next thing more powerful. You don't make it worse than it was
Yeah, you're gonna
previously.
freaking lose money if it's not more like way more powerful, or at least
Um,
substantially.
Oh, that was one of the other things. The speculation for the I'm sorry, for the PS5 Pro. A little out here, but
Backtrack.
it was one of the things that it was. Yeah, so this is probably gonna, it's a lot of the big concern is not gonna have the disk drive on this one. It's supposed,
Oh,
because somewhere in the article or whatever, one of the things that says it's compatible with the those disk drives that are out now, the detachable ones.
mm,
So there's a big fear that this Pro model is going to be missing a drive, and
it's gonna
that will
happen. Yeah,
really suck if that's the case.
it's gonna happen one day. I mean, they're gonna get rid of the drives at some point.
But if the whole thing is also, if you're talking about backwards compatibility, being able to
Yeah.
do a lot of that stuff, and so that's, you currently have a five, the PS5 currently is able to play a lot of, you can use a PS4 disc. So
Yeah.
to have that removed, yes, it'll help lessen the cost. So therefore, people
But
aren't as upset that you're upping it by $100.
but Joe,
Uh,
how are they gonna double dip if it has a disc player in it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, this player, I'm not sure about the PS5, but the PS4 wasn't even able to play music. Um,
Just yeah, yeah they
a
got
buddy of mine gave me a CD, and I'm like, okay, cool. Where's my CD player? Let me just pop it into my PS4, and it didn't play. And I'm like, wait a minute, you kidding
that's
me?
hilarious.
Doesn't.
That's just like a big fu. They should put up a like you put in a CD and it just like a middle finger flashes on the screen.
So yeah, I haven't tried it with my PS5, so maybe that one does play music, but I'm like, I doubt it.
It's just like the
But yes, all right. So yeah, South Korea with the leaks as usual.
yeah.
But yeah, they said they've already said they're coming out with the new Xbox. You heard it from like Phil Spencer himself and that team. So all right, uh, you know, we'll see. I'm kind of curious to see what happens with them because they've already announced that there wasn't going to be a pro model coming out for them. That's what the Series X is from the jump. It was always their pro model, and we'll kind of see how they react to the PS5 Pro when that hits because if they don't come out with a mid-gen refresh for Xbox, maybe they'll come out with the next gen sooner.
Well, I was
Uh,
kind of wondering because like this Xbox dev kit certified in South Korea happened like exactly at the same time as the PS5 Pro specs getting leaked. So I was kind of like, I wonder if they, I wonder if Xbox conspiracy theory Nick here, uh, if Xbox Microsoft was like, we need to have something in the, we know what they're making over there. We need to have a little piece of news ready to leak whenever info about this comes out so that our fans don't panic and say, what are you going to do about this? Where's the next Xbox? So this is like a subtle little leak that will allow the Xbox fanboys to go, okay, they're making another Xbox for me. I don't have to I don't have to write an email now to Phil Spencer. Um, anyway, I just wonder if that's because it was so perfect. It was like exactly the same time, and I was like, it's been certified in South Korea. Like this, it just feels too serendipitous to me.
yeah, you probably have a certain good point there.
I don't know.
Uh,
It's nothing. Doesn't matter.
all right, so now on to what we've been playing. So over this last week, uh, I decided to play a game that was kind of caught my eye on Xbox Game Pass, and that was Return to Grace. It is listed as like an adventure game. It's closer to an experience is the best way I'd explain it. It's like a walking game. Um, I was expecting a little more puzzle aspect because when it had the adventure in the title, I was like, all right. It has kind of the you're essentially uh, a space archaeologist who crash lands onto one of the moons of Jupiter to search for an old relic. Uh, it states that you're in like I forget now, uh, like late like 3,000 something BC, not BC, AD. I'm sorry, it was like 3,800 or something like that is your time frame. So way off into our future, but they're looking into a relic that is technically over 1,000 years old, so still into our future. So that's like their super future, and it's just looking for an old item called Grace. It's just like supposed to be you're looking for the tower or spire of Grace, and it's a really short game. Like I think I 100%ed it within less than 4 hours.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
so it's multiple playthroughs. So probably first playthrough, take your time. You're probably looking at like 2 hours or something like that. Um, I mean, honestly, probably maybe even less than that. I just ran and then I reran it a couple times or certain scenarios, and I played the whole thing again just to get like the final set of trophies. So I did all that within like less than 4 hours. It's a simple game, has really nice aesthetic, looks nice, but has like that retro futuristic kind of vibe to it. When you're walking around looking at the scenery, the architecture, your spacesuit. Um, so it's a fun little story. If you want just a little sci-fi adventure, um, they do a couple things neat there. I mean, like I said, it's hard to explain too much of the game without spoiling it because it's such a short game. But essentially, you find yourself at this abandoned tower, and you're looking for a AI computer named Grace, and the whole thing's just powered down. So as you're trying to power up the systems, you're getting fragments of Grace's AI. The first one you find is logic, and then you find but you're finding essentially these core elements, and from then they can kind of combine to make other AI elements, and they all communicate to you through your wristwatch, essentially, or your smartwatch, and it's interesting dialogue. It's a fun little take, and it's fascinating because you're trying to figure out kind of what's happened to this society, why Grace was abandoned. Was it attacked? Was it, like you're looking for any remains of people or anything like that? You just can't see. Like you're just trying to uncover the mystery, as it were. And it's also kind of fun to fill in the blanks of this super future setting, being like, hey, there was a dark age post Grace, stuff like that. It's like how far into our solar system did humanity settle, and what was the purpose of this tower? It was, there's a handful of audio recordings. There's a few different branching paths, as it were. None of them really make a huge difference. There is like multiple endings. There's like three endings. There's the true ending, I guess, there, which you can get right away. It's not like it's, you don't have to play it multiple times to get the true ending. There's the okay ending, and then there's which is requires you to act a certain way from the beginning, and then there's just a straight up bad ending, which was kind of entertaining as well. But yeah, totally worth if you wanted just a short little time. I played it via cloud gaming on my phone,
Mm.
but you have to have a controller to use it, so you can't do the touchpads.
Okay.
And so yeah, I kind of played it real quick while my kids were watching TV. I just sat on the couch, hooked up my phone to my controller, and there you go. So I recommend it as a short little experience. It's not it's not very difficult at all. So it's more like, hey, if you like a sci-fi jaunt, go for it. And the other thing I was playing for a bit was Akira Toriyama's game that's coming out, and that's Sandland. They dropped a demo for it. So um, Akira Toriyama, recently passed away. The creator of Dragon Ball and character designer and monster designer for like Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest. So this is his work, and it's essentially it's like a cell shaded art style, but you're playing a fiend, a little monster guy, and his crew in the desert. That's the best way to explain it. It's essentially post-war, like Mad Max style. It's just wasteland as far as the eye can see, and the demo is really uh it's a really odd way to do a demo. It's just like it just drops you in, has you already boosted to like level 15, gives you a couple of vehicle options, and says, "Yep, just explore, but only explore this certain area. Well, we're gonna block you off from the rest."
Okay.
So it really wasn't. It kind of gave you a feel for how the game plays, but doesn't quite give you a feel for the way the story is going to play out, or doesn't give you any real structure that way. So it was a really rough demo, in my opinion. Of
Okay.
course, they also say, "Hey, this is a demo. Doesn't reflect the main game. It could still change." Also, it gives you at least a couple of bonus things when you have a save slot. There's like, yeah, just make sure to boot up start a brand new game with the main game, and then so long as you have this save data, we'll give you a couple extra materials for crafting and stuff, or for upgrading your vehicles in the main game. So the main mode of transportation in this is essentially a motorcycle that can ride on sand. Very much the sci-fi motorcycles you get from like Dragon Ball and stuff like that.
So
Same characters, vehicle design.
is this like an action RPG? I forgot.
This is just straight up an action game which
Okay.
has some RPG elements.
Okay.
So it's like It's more akin to uh, very much playing like the Mad Max video game or any open world third person game.
Hmm.
You can run up and you can melee. There's a combo system. There's a slight level progression tree. So as you gain levels, I don't. I didn't actually gain any levels when I was playing this, but it was already had you at 15 and had a bunch of like attack move sets unlocked. You have two extra companions with you, a human and a thief, whose name is just Thief, uh, and they have a couple extra abilities. You have your main mode of transportation from the between other than the motorcycle is a tank, which is pretty fun, and then you have a slower giant mech suit, just a fat round mech suit,
Okay.
and those all have like different ammunition types. So you usually have some sort of like machine gun and some sort of either artillery shell or like a heavy shot. And so as that reloads, you can then switch to the alternate fire option and then unload on the enemies that way. And they just have just random enemies just spawn. So it was like I said, the demo kind of left me a little empty. I'm like, I kind of was not it wasn't the best impression, I don't think. But that's because they didn't really have anything for you to do, any goals. I tried. There's a tower, so I'm like, okay, there's a tower here. Let's see what we can do. Well, in order to activate said tower, you have to collect materials. So then I just wandered the wastelands looking for like bandit camps or like little bandit groups to find their treasure chests to unlock. And I finally was able to
Yeah.
upgrade the map or get the tools I needed to fix the control tower. Afterwards, I'm like, okay, how much of this map did it open up? Not very much. I'm like, all right, let's see how far south I can go. And then it blocked me off pretty quick. Like, I wanted to go to a certain icon on the map.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, can't go to it. Go fig. Um, I checked out a ruin. I'm like, this is neat. I'm supposed to clearly get up to a certain point. I tried double jumping, tried doing a bunch of stuff. I'm like, I don't know I'm supposed to get in through that window area. And
Well,
I'm like, all right, so this dungeon is just like unfinished, I guess, unless
yeah,
if I'm
it
missing
it
something.
sounds like they
So it was
needed to
kind
give
of
you a little bit of a story, like a side story, or I don't know, some sort of prologue that you could play, but some kind of story to kind of attach what the gameplay is doing in terms of uh of like the larger narrative, whatever. Um, yeah, it just seems like it's like, well, this is kind of cool, but what does any of it mean? I can
yeah.
tell the vehicles drive okay and then the action is okay, but what does it really, any of it have to do with anything? So I kind of get that. Maybe that's who they think they're trying to convince. Maybe people, they're like, if you are playing the demo, then you're obviously in for whatever story that we have. So we just have to prove to you that this game is competent as far as like the gameplay goes. Maybe there was no easy way to like put in story without spoiling it or messing up something from the main game. Um,
So that's
uh,
that's what the thing is. I'm pretty sure it's because like they give you the vehicles that they do early on, um, in order to. I think if they started off in the beginning of the game, you're not going to have much to play with, and so that's why they threw you in at level 15 to give you a little bit more move set, a little bit of stuff to flush out. But in order to give you a story at that point, you're going to be jumping into a middle of a story, and you're like, well, what the heck happened? Why am I doing this? And there's not a comfortable spot without starting from the beginning,
yeah,
because you're just going to be like kind of lost and confused. So it's kind of I understand they just want to be like, here, get a feel for the game, see if you like it. And in that aspect, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. um I mean, it's not enough to do, and it's kind of like, especially since you can't explore the bigger area. I'm pretty sure it's going to do like a lot of open world games and be like, all right, this is your starting area, and then now your world all of a sudden gets bigger.
yeah.
Um, but it's kind of funny because some of the character designs in this were essentially the main character you're playing as is the Fiend Prince, which is Beelzebub. His father, being the Demon King, is Lucifer, and he is pretty much the Dragon Ball Z character. Was it Dabura? So from like the Majin Buu story arc where he's this essentially red devil with horns and he has like a M on his forehead.
Yeah.
So that was it was about other than that, other than the M on his forehead, I'm like, yep, your face, like that is totally just that character swapped into this new other world.
Hmm.
The old man you're playing as, uh, like or the other like one of the main characters, he's I can't remember now. He's part of the Red Ribbon Army. Like I recognize him from being one of the androids. Um, like Dr. Grail, I think his name is, or something like that. But it's like I'm like that's pretty much like pretty similar to the character. So if you are a big fan of Akira Toriyama, you can look at it and you're like, yep, all right, I can see where these characters align. They call him, like the big thing is, this he's a human working with demons, uh, but they're more like yokai, essentially. They call them
Oh,
demons, but it's just
nice,
like, all
cute
right,
little
you're
demons.
yokai. You literally are a ghost. You're literally um, Kodachi or I forget the weasel with the blade. Like they show these characters in the anime, which is now where I'm going to transition to. So
Perfect pivot.
uh, yeah. So they've recently just dropped the first 7 of 13 episodes for Sandlands. They have it subbed and dubbed.
So there's an
And
anime called Sandland that's exactly the
yep.
same, but it's an anime, not a game. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yes, double dipping in his own property. He knows how to make money. Just like Dragon Ball Z, there's a video game and then there's an anime. Uh, Guaranteed there's going to be toy figures of Sandland too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's like so his estate is going to make out okay, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so the anime, on the other hand, is left a bigger impression and a much better taste, in, as it were. It's it's really well done as far as the art style. It's all it's all CG, cell shaded. Um, it's really nice looking. The voice work is pretty solid. Every now and then, though, it's just like the main the Beelzebub, his character is just it's very Japanese and very much like a Toriyama, like of the late '90s or something like that. It's like yeah, his mannerisms are odd, maybe more entertaining for a Japanese native, but just like seems almost just like out of left field for towards like episode 6 or something like that. He does a victory pose, which is just a splash animation of like 4 different Michael Jackson poses like back to back, and it's just like wow, out of left field. Didn't expect that. Not really
He
great, but okay.
he looks annoying. Is he
Um,
annoying?
So not as much as I thought he would. In fact, that's actually the main reason why is all the video game, imaging showed him as the main character, so that I had zero interest in the game. I actually started watching the anime first.
Mm.
I had down what I did is I downloaded the demo. 'Cause I'm gonna give this a shot. Then the very next day, the anime dropped, and so I started watching a few episodes of the anime. All right, cool. Let me go back into let me check out this demo now, because the anime focuses more on um, the Rayo, the old man. Like he is like the main focus. Or and then he goes to pick up Beelzebub and Thief. And like that they are a part of his team. So it's not necessarily, like I said, Beelzebub is not as annoying as he looks in the anime. um he's supposed to be 2,500 years old, but acts like a 12-year-old, who
Mm.
has like superhuman strength. Yes, he's essentially bulletproof, and he's like just obscenely powerful.
Okay.
So the anime is real simple. It's just hey, they're in a desert world post-war, and everyone's struggling to get water. And the king has the monopoly on water, and he sells it to you via infomercial style. Um, and yeah,
Could dig
so
that.
the the village asks their sheriff, "Hey, can you go help us with water? Because all our wells are dry." So he's like, "Okay, well, I have a theory. I'm gonna go ask the demons for help." And then they start their adventure, and that's pretty much it. Um, but it was an entertaining. It was good.
All right.
You know,
So you're
it's
halfway
not
through
gonna.
it, and it's good so
Yeah,
far. All right.
they actually finished their. Or I'm slight spoiler, but not really. they finished their story arc, by episode 6. So at least you're not going to go through all the episodes under the same story,
Oh, okay.
which was nice. Yeah, so episode 7 is like, hey, we're about to start on a new adventure with said characters and a new plot. But that's about as all I'll say about that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's entertaining. It's good as far as a lighthearted Toriyama thing. Not completely over the top. Not super bad in any way. It's it was an alright watch. So
Good.
I guess I'd give it like a 7. I mean,
Oh,
like I said,
oh,
doesn't I most definitely be like, hey, if you want to watch something, go for it. You can watch it. I wouldn't actively say no or I actively push it. But if you're a Toriyama fan, for sure.
okay.
Like I said, it made me made me more interested in the game, and I'm kind of more like, but the game itself pushes me away from the franchise. At least that demo. Like I said, I'm optimistic for it, for the actual game, but I'm more interested in the anime. So.
Okay. Well, that sounds about right. Yeah, if you're already a Toriyama fan, it's worth checking out.
All right. Like other than that, you've been yeah, you're still chucking away at Legend of Zelda, last I heard, right?
Yeah, I'm still Zeldaing, kind of just going around. I think I said this every time. I'm just going. I haven't actually had that much time to play, but I'm just going around, waking up light roots, in the underground, and I was thinking about this game, and I was kind of like, the sky parts need a little bit more. I hate to complain about it because it's a big game with a lot of stuff to do, but it feels a little bit imbalanced that way. Like the underground parts are maybe a little bit barren sometimes or samey, but there's a lot to do down there as far as like starting up, like waking up the light roots and basically turning on the lights essentially. I feel like they could have made that a little bit smaller, maybe added a little bit more to the sky stuff to balance it out. Because most of the game does take place in like the normal plane, just the normal like above ground, but not in the sky. And I understand, like that's fine. But I feel like the sky stuff, the game does start you there, but there's just not there's stuff to do, but it's not as plentiful. I don't think. So that's a little complaint that I kind of thought of this past week. But besides that, I was kind of going around and collecting stuff, doing all kinds of side quests, and I don't know. I have a bunch of I'm storing up quite a few. I forget what they're called, but they're basically you have to get 4 of them, and then you go turn them into the shrine, and then you can get either a heart or more stamina. I don't really think I need any more stamina for the rest of the game, but so I'm holding on to my what they're called, the shrine pieces, whatever, until I know for sure. But I'm probably just going to turn them all into hearts because I feel like the last boss is probably going to need. I'm going to need to have as much health as possible, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, it's still fun, still good game to screw around in.
It's as much as you've been talking about the game, it just seems like you're really trying to stretch it out because you just like it's unfulfilling to go to the end. I guess it's not a game that has multiple endings. At least I'm not aware of. So like, just beat it and
Just
then
end it.
Let do the free roaming.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that when I beat it, I'm not gonna play any more of it really. But it is fun to just kind of walk around and what's over here and what's over there and like I need to finish up this little side quests and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff like that that's just sort of easy to do. Also, the end of the game, the final boss and going through like the last castle and stuff, I know is going to be, I don't want to say a chore, but it's going to be involved. And I sometimes I just want to pick up and play something easy, and it has a lot of that left to do. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, What about anime?
Yeah. What about anime?
What
All right.
about?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. You haven't watched anything. You haven't finished up anything except for you did say you finally caught up with not the most recent, but you did catch up last week's episode of Delicious in Dungeon. You mentioned that before.
Yeah,
Um,
it's still a
and
good show. Still good.
all right. Well, let's see here. So there's going to be this next season for the spring of anime. Uh, has a lot of season threes coming out, like just a ton of season three stuff. One of the big ones coming up is uh, actually going to be Konosuba season three.
Yeah, that's
It's
got
been
crazy how much how many people are excited for that. That's number one on my anime list.
yeah, well, rightfully so. It's been on hiatus for a while. So it's for those who haven't seen it, essentially it's the standard trope of isekai. Guy gets taken out and winds up in like the afterlife where the goddess gives him a choice, be like, hey, choose your starting stat to before you go down to defeat the demon lord. And so he's taking too much time, and the goddess is kind of an uppity annoying
She says
person.
you can take
So
one thing.
yeah, and he
Yeah,
wants to look at all the stats of all the items and all the options. So because she was being snarky, he's like, "Yeah, I'll take you." And so then the gods approve, and he gets sent down to this new world with the god or the former goddess. And
yeah.
turns out she's useless, and he has below average stats on everything except for luck. I'm pretty sure. I think that was it, really. Um, yeah, it does a lot of funny things. It spins a lot of the tropes on like
Yeah.
back at the genre, uh, and he has like a killer mage, but the mage literally only has one spell, and it's a single explosion, and then they're rendered useless, like literally dead as log. Just like they have to carry him away from battle.
Yeah.
Uh,
The first
he
time
ends
that
up
she shoots it, and then the camera goes back on her, and she's like, she was standing on a slight grassy knoll, and the camera goes back on her body's just like she's like face down in the grass, just sliding down the hill, completely unable to move. It's pretty funny, pretty funny.
Yeah. He has a paladin like who is all defense and zero offensive capability, and every swing is a miss.
And
Um,
kind of a masochist, and maybe slightly aroused by getting hit. It's kind of
very
weird.
much a masochist. No, no, not
Yeah,
slightly. Very much a masochist.
yeah,
And it's very funny series, but it's very different, and that's kind of what makes it unique. They actually made
it's
for
funny.
a pen and paper RPG rule set with this game. Uh, and it's funny because they have a intro to that book. They have like a mock game that they're playing, and they have that and a bunch of other mangaka from like ReZero and a bunch of other playing different characters. And one of the like archetypes you can pick is the isekai hero. Um, yeah, it's a
That's funny.
pretty buddy of mine bought me that rule book, and he's like, yeah, we gotta play this sometime. I'm like, sure, whenever I have enough chance to actually do a D&D session again. Uh, all right, so what else we got here? We got one of your favorites, Kimetsu no Yaiba, so Demon Slayer, the new story arc coming on now,
Yeah,
and
this is the Hashira training arc. I can't remember. I think that there's going to be this season and at least one more, but maybe two more, depending on how. But I think that they're pretty close to the end of the at least of what was happening in the manga. You never know if they're going to try to extend it beyond. But as far as like the what the manga went through, um, getting kind of close to the end of the story there. This should be pretty good. It's I kind of wonder though if people are maybe getting a little bit tired of it because uh, or just coming to expect, well, it's going to be Demon Slayer, it's going to be like really well animated or whatever, but people aren't really hyped for it anymore. Because I mean, Konosuba is is a really good anime. But it did surprise me that there's more hype for it. I guess just because it's been so long. But just that there's more hype for it than there is for like Demon Slayer. But I guess it's just the world we live in right now.
Well, I also think Demon Slayer, it was a time and place thing when it came out because,
Yeah.
that movie broke all the records because of COVID, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for COVID, like that movie wouldn't have stayed in theaters as long as it did, and it wouldn't have gained as much traction. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's a really good series, but I think it was just a time and place, lightning in a bottle, as you
Yeah,
would
but
say.
I mean, like, it wasn't just the movie. I mean, the movie was sort of the cherry on top. The show like blew up huge, and I mean, just some people talking on podcasts that like live in Japan were saying that it was everywhere.
Oh yeah, it
Um,
became a phenomenon. I mean,
yeah,
it was one of those things that it's just like, yeah, now everywhere you see during Halloween, a bunch of people wearing bamboo gags in their mouth. Like, oh, that's appropriate for children.
yeah.
Um,
Teach them kids. Um, I guess what I'll say is that I think that it maybe has worn out its welcome. It was maybe a little too popular, too big for a couple of years, and now people are just like, okay, enough of this seeing a Demon Slayer everywhere. I'm tired of this being at the top of all the lists. I don't care anymore. Anyway, but I'm excited for it because it's always good, and yeah, I'll definitely be watching this.
yep, I'm still haven't finished the train series,
Just
train
give
arc.
up.
So,
Just give up, dude.
uh,
You're not gonna do it.
oh yeah, probably not. But it was. It also didn't really catch me as much as, especially season one, as it did everyone else. Um, so the that time I got turned into a slime. Season three is officially coming out now.
Yeah,
Uh,
you like this
yeah,
one?
I do. That like that it start. It's one of the few series that starts off with a really good, like right out the bat, like funny jokes and stuff like that. I mean, uh, another isekai guy gets killed, winds up in Fantasyland, but he's a slime now. And his dying words to his friend as he dies in our world was to destroy his computer. And at the end of the episode, after the credits, his buddy drops his computer into the bathtub. Uh,
How does that joke never
um,
get old?
yeah, I'm like, well, he at least the dude had his priorities. Yeah, this one's an entertaining one. I know that there's been some like OVA and some movies out there, so I'm kind of behind on that. I've been up to date with the actual TV series
Oh,
itself,
okay.
though. So there's a little few things here and there I believe I'm missing, but as a whole, like I think it'd still be approachable. This one being done by 8-bit as well. Like again, I should say the another big one coming out is I always hate saying this one. Musoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation Season 2 Part 2. There's a couple Season 2 Part 2s in this list as well.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so this one was probably, like I said, I don't know if this was the origin, but this was one of my first origin ones of Truck-kun. So another isekai, and as I just suggested, yeah, this dude gets taken out by Truck-kun, pushes a girl out of the way of traffic and gets creamed by a truck. And because he was a total sack of crap in our world, he wants to live it. He tries really hard to improve himself in this one. Um, the the gist of season one was, or the start of that story was, he learns magic from and swordsmanship from his dad, who is a pretty strong adventurer, and magic from um, a young apprentice, or like a genius, as they always call him, mage, and he has high attributes to that. Ends up through a weird incident, a magical explosion. Essentially, it levels a city and jettisons people all over their world. Like literally, just like flings them into the sky. And if you survive the landing, um, you then you're trying to find your way back. And that's what his whole journey was: is him and his friend trying to find their way back.
Mm.
This story has been going on for a long time. I've been a big fan of this story. I've been reading this one for years, and like 7 or something like that. It's crazy. The manga's been going on for a long time. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of curious. I think at this point, it's going to it'll probably surpass where it is in the manga. I'm thinking in this season, or it's because it's like right. It's not that far beforehand, so I'm kind of curious. I don't know anything about the actual this season 2 part 2 story arc, but from where they left off, it may catch up or finally catch up slash surpass the point in the manga,
The manga. Yeah.
which it's interesting. It has me more hyped because I'm curious where they're going to go with it. Um, I usually get bummed when that happens too, because then it usually kills all momentum for me wanting to stay with the manga. Because by the time they catch up to where the anime is, it'll take a long time, like a year plus. And so usually what I do is I drop said manga, and then I'll come back to it like a year or two later, and be like, hey, they still haven't caught up yet, or or something like that, or they finally did catch up, but it's only like 2 chapters.
Mm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a long wait.
Yeah, that
Um,
is kind of a tough little dance. You just gotta love them. Just gotta love the manga for its own sake, I guess.
Yeah. I've only done that for a little bit with a couple in the past where I've read, even though I'm wanting to see the difference, right? It's like reading the book after watching the movie, to being like, hey, let's see what they did or how they did things differently. But usually it's pretty minuscule, so you're not losing much by watching the anime. So there's no need to go through the manga. Um, but all right, there's the new My Hero Academia season 7.
Season 7, man.
Uh,
Yeah.
So I dropped off, I think after season 5. Um, they were focusing way more on the villains, and it just I don't know, just kind of like they had such good pacing in the previous seasons or the early seasons, like season 1 and stuff, where they didn't take a whole season to do a montage. They did a couple episodes and then they moved on, and they had a really good pacing. And then towards season 4 or something like that, they started just padding things out, and things got more and more drawn out, and it really felt tedious, at least to me, because the joy I got from it is, hey, you're not spending forever on a single little bit, but now it's just like, all right, it's becoming more useless drama and fluff. So now that they're a couple seasons in, maybe I'll finally get to, or I'm a couple seasons behind, I'll finally binge watch those maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
just rush through them.
I do really like it, and I do recommend it to a lot of people, especially those first couple ones. And it's up to you if you drop it later on, but the first couple seasons are solid, without
Yeah,
a doubt.
I've always heard. Yeah. Is there
Uh,
anything on this list that you think is like a hidden gem? Um, that's gonna be like better than its ranking or whatever.
um, there's a lot of hype for Kaiju number 8. Um,
I,
so
I,
Kaiju number 8's been a lot of people been talking about it. I'm into Kaiju stuff, so I'm kind of curious how they're gonna play that out.
I so I wonder if it gets better, but I read like the first like 10 chapters of the manga, and I was like, this is not really good. It's not, it wasn't bad, but it was just sort of ho hum. I don't know. Maybe it gets better. Maybe I just need to, or maybe I was just in the wrong headspace for it. But I just, I'm like anti hype for this. I'm like, I will watch probably a bunch of other stuff. Unless I hear it's really, really good or whatever. But I'll probably watch a bunch of other stuff before I actually go to this.
I'm actually kind of curious. Well, so here's one that I'm amazed that it's still getting. It's a season 2 part 2 of is the Misfits of the Demon King Academy.
Mm,
In season 2 part 2. I have no idea how they got a season 2 to begin with. Um,
pretty
because
popular.
that season 1 was solid.
Mm,
Season 2 is like, I'm like, you're done. And like it's just, I feel like they've just went deep into some like light novel lore or something like that. I'm like, I have no idea what the heck's going on. My eyes are glazing over. I'm like, this is nonsense. And it's still going. So I'm like, I kind of need to see where this goes. So that's more like a journey of immense annoyance, I guess.
mm.
the
Well,
Another one that amazes me, but like is Date Alive season 5. Um, this is more or less a like a the concept is like if a dating sim was it was a real life thing, to be so creatures from a different dimension look like humans, come to our world, and essentially this main protagonist finds himself in a situation where he has to calm them down, or else they might wreak havoc, and like destroy our world. So the people decide to have him woo them. So they literally act as if it's a live action or like a real dating sim.
Mm.
There's a group of like at the command center all come up, like there's a AI generates, here's your best options, A, B, or C. And so then the people are in the headquarters are like, go with A, blah blah, and then everyone's like, no, you dummy, you go with B. And then they whatever they decide, that's what the hero gets to pick. He's like, go with B option, and like hit on her like this, or pretend to be like this. It's like it is a stupid premise. Season one was like, all right, that was a thing. I can't believe that happened, but okay, it was just like whatever. And then they're like, wait, you got a season two? And then it's like, and it's three now. Like, just it just doesn't stop. Um, it's ridiculous. It's not. It's like I'd say early the just the knowing about it was like kind of the gist. Like you don't
Mm.
necessarily need to go as deep into it. I'm now just at a morbid curiosity, be like, all right, I'm kind of curious to see how this ends up. The fact that this thing has somehow caught as much momentum as it has to get 5 seasons. That's rare for anime. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's pretty
yeah, it
wild.
really is. I mean, it's it I don't know, it's nothing special, but it's just it's funny.
I
But it's
guess
not like
the joke is
but
not getting old yet. They're just like, well, just make
yeah.
12 more
Well, it's
episodes.
like is one of the things that the main girl in the very beginning that he tries, the main character of season one. Luckily, they push her out of the way for the rest of the seasons because she's kind of dumb, and I'm super glad. Like I'm enjoying the rest of the series without her.
Is
Like
it based on a manga that's long running
it's
or?
a it's a manga, probably a light novel too, is my guess.
Okay, maybe.
And like it has to be a dating sim game too. Like there, I don't know which came first, but like I said, it's probably a light novel first, and that's like I said, it has a fan base that warrants it. They make enough sales to make their fifth season, right? So it's crazy.
It's wild.
The one of the ones that really curious about coming up this next season is they're remaking Spice and Wolf.
Okay.
So Spice and Wolf is kind of legendary in a lot of ways. It's a wholesome anime. The original was very wholesome, for the most part. Like not if you're really into math and economics, then man, this is a show for you. It's literally about a merchant who happens to uh, run into like this wolf who's like the god or spirit of like this wheat field kind of deal, or this area, and she's like, yeah, I'll just tag along with you. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, it was just a lot of commerce going on in that original series. It was just chill. It's like uh not really slice of life, because slice of life is more of comedy usually, but it's just like, yeah, there's him just rolling to a new town, meeting new people, doing new things. Like it wasn't anything super dramatic, super romantic. It wasn't anything like at all, but it was like a chill anime to watch. Um, they are apparently remaking it, so kind of hesitant, I guess. But I'm curious, but at the same time, I'm like, there's no reason to remake it. In my opinion, there was nothing wrong with the first one.
How
So,
old is the
um,
first one?
now you're asking.
Like
Let me look that up
10
for you.
more? I feel
Uh,
like remaking anything that's like less than 10 years old is sort of like, why? Why? Um,
yeah. So I'm pulling up the original.
but maybe
It
they feel
says,
like they've got
oh
something.
wait, so 2008.
Okay, well then, yeah, it's been more than, I mean, dadgum, it's like 16 years, so um, it's not crazy, but it is a little weird to remake stuff, especially anime, because it's like, well, how much does it? I don't know. I guess there's some pretty rough looking anime in that era, so
Yeah, but this one always had really pretty really solid art. Like that was the thing,
okay,
is
well,
it's not it's
it's
not
not
of
one of those
a
then. Okay,
it's not like of a chibi, or like the K-On! Art style of the time. It's like K-On!
oh
has a very cutesy like art style,
yeah,
that moe look. This one, it was never that way. Um So like I said, I feel that you're more at risk of doing things wrong in this kind of remake than you are about doing things right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you can't really make it better. Like
But you
it's
can't
hard. I
easily
think
make it worse. Yeah.
you're the best. Yeah, you can easily make it worse. It's going to be harder to make it better at best. Hopefully, you just keep it as good. But then it's like, well, why'd you remake it?
To
Um,
make money,
so yeah,
can sell more merch.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
all right,
That's
we got two more stuff. Season three is one of which I'm a big fan of, and it's the irregular at Magic High School season three.
mm-hmm.
This has always been a fun series. It's been a weird one. So
8
it's
bit.
like a semi-futuristic time frame of like our world where people can use magic, but magic formulas and stuff are all done kind of like digitally. So it's like you have some gift for it, but at the same time a lot of your spells and stuff focused are like inputted into a cell phone, as it were, like a program, and you can then execute said program. So the main hero of this one is literally the most void, empty slate possible
Mm-hmm.
because he's killed all emotions, or he's had emotions killed for him. So he literally has zero emotions except for the fact that he cares for his little sister. And so the joke is like his whenever I first came across this, I didn't know what it was, but all I read was the comments, and they were like, the Onisama account is sky high. Um, and apparently, yeah, it's the little sister who
Uh,
dotes on her, like sees her big brother as the coolest guy ever.
yeah.
Um, Luckily, that's more like a joke, and it's not as bad as it sounds like, but it is super funny. And I'm like, man, if you did a drinking game, so every time that's Onisama is said, you'd be dead by episode one. Um, but the series is actually pretty
You'd be
solid. I
you'd be
really do
dead by the
like it.
first commercial break.
Yeah, something like that. But no. So the fact that also surprised me that they're getting a season three. I never expected them to get a season two. They got that as well, obviously. So I'm interested. Uh, Now we have here season three of Laid Back Camp. Laid Back Camp is lots of fun.
Yeah.
It's a chill anime. Uh, Simple, just girls doing camping. Um,
Yeah.
it's like sponsored by like the tourism board, darn near. Like
Mm,
real locations around like
Japan.
Fuji and around these other spots. And eventually, like this one girl, she has a motorcycle, so she likes to do solo camping, and that's her stick. She's like, yeah, I like to go to different places and just camp by myself.
I guess Japan wouldn't be
um
so bad to solo camp in because there's not really any animals that are really going to get you. I was trying to just thinking
well
about doing that in America. Where I would do that, it'd be like Colorado or near Canada and Montana and stuff. And there's bears and stuff up there and cougars, and I don't want to get got all alone. Anyway, that's
yeah,
just
that's why you go camp. That's why you bring your mom, and then, like whenever you go to camping, and then you like
you're right. And you just
you can not
yeah.
only will you be able to escape, but then you also get an inheritance. I see your plan.
Dang, yeah, you're right. Yeah, two
um,
birds.
so no, so these are all like legit campsites. So that's what they don't still go out in the middle of the woods and just trek up a mountain sideways and like I'm gonna camp here. No, it's a weird niche thing, but it's pretty fun. So both Irregular High School and Laid Back Camp is also being done by Studio 8-Bit.
Yeah,
They're doing slime, so they're doing quite a bit under their belt this season.
yeah. I guess
Um,
do they always have this much on one season? That seems like a lot.
yeah. Another season three coming out, which is I'm kind of excited for, is the um, Hibike Euphonium, or Sound of Euphonium.
Sound
This is a
euphonium. Yeah.
it's just a music anime, but it's one of the prettiest looking like dramas.
Mm,
Uh, they
Kyoto
bunch of
animation.
kids do band camp. Essentially, is the best way I can, in a nutshell. I mean, it's simplifying it, but it's a solid anime. I never got to finish season two. I'm in the middle of it, but it's really good as far as the quality goes, and it's a solid watch. Most definitely, if you get a chance to take a look at season one and see if it's your jam. I mean, uh, that's about it for that. What I'm going to say about season 3, because obviously I don't know much about it since I never finished season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
Go Go Loser Ranger. That one is. I remember when the manga first came out for this. If in a nutshell, if I remember correctly, um, heroes beat up the bad guys. The henchmen for the bad guys now have to essentially work at like an amusement park type setting where it's like we have to reenact our loss on stage kind of deal. And the dude's like, you know what, forget this. I'm gonna go ahead and infiltrate the good guys. I'm gonna try to go to be a good guy candidate, even though he's one of like the bad guy like henchmen. Um, now if I got that wrong, my bad. But like I read a little bit of the manga a long time ago, and I'm like, all right, cool, they're getting this. This should be entertaining. I think it's going to be funny, hopefully. um, a weird one coming out is Black Butler, public school arc. Black Butler was always a weird one. It was like a thing of its time. uh, it's essentially super genius little kid trying to hunt down the murderers of his parents, and he essentially makes a contract with like the devil, and who's his butler, and he finds bad guys and makes them confess to their crimes, kind of deal. Um, I've watched the first couple seasons and I'm like, this is dumb, and I kind of just dropped off. But hey, it's getting a season 3 after how many years, or a new story arc after so many years. So I'm like, yeah, uh, kind of surprised on that front. Uh, I don't know. There's a bunch of unique ones coming out that I don't know much about. So I'm not. It's like they have one that's just called Bartender. Glass of God. And so I'm like, something tells me that's just going to be a simple little thing,
Mm,
you know. So I'm kind
yeah.
of curious about that.
Yeah, that could have some decent writing in it, maybe. But yeah, it's probably not going to
It's just
be.
gonna, it's like a foodie anime, but instead it's just gonna be cocktails. That's the
Yeah,
way I figured it.
yeah.
Someone like the new guy who just turned 20 in Japan, trying out new drinks, and I can see it being something weird like that, or like the story behind the regulars that come into the place, like Cheers, you know.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
Cheers the anime. Yeah.
because they make a couple of those, like the isekai, there's like a couple isekai restaurant ones or whatever. I
Mm.
One of them was like a door to a restaurant in another world,
Okay.
and the story was mostly about the regulars who find the door to the said our world restaurant,
Mm.
and how their life changes because of said food, and they only get the one regular item. So I'm thinking it's gonna be something similar to that, where like, hey, so and so always gets this drink, and like that kind of deal. um there's another reincarnated one, about a seventh prince, and I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure I knew this one. I read the synopsis. I'm like, nope, okay, this isn't the seventh. There's always something having to do with the seventh kid. And I remember being like a Terry Pratchett joke of like the seventh son of a seventh son happens to be like a wizard or something like that. So I'm thinking they're making jokes on that. Um, so I have no idea. I'm like, okay, this one, the art is really crisp, but the animation looks weird, so I'm not 100% sure. Um, I'm trying to think if anything else really pops to me. There was one that was like a manga that I read a while back, and it was the another reincarnated aristocrat. I use my appraisal skill to raise in the world. So it's kid born of noble family. His skill is appraisal, garbage tier, according to them, and yet he's able to find like uh, people with superior stats, essentially. So he uses that to his benefit. So his butler, manservant, is a guy who had really good base like combat stats and some other things like athletics. So but he was a poor street urchin, so he helps bring him in and stuff like that. I'm like, it was entertaining. It's nothing great, but it was enjoyable. So I'm kind of curious to see that. I'm surprised they got an anime. I
Hmm.
mean,
Well,
so yeah, it's
probably just see what throwing not throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks.
yeah.
Um,
Fable though. The Fable is another one coming out. I'm actually pretty interested in this one. Uh, this has a weird one. I read this manga like years ago. I haven't read it any time recently, but like it was entertaining. Is more or less supposed to be the legendary like hitman in Japan, and he does a big job, and so he has to go quiet for a while. And his mob family that he works for, like they have him cool off in like Osaka or somewhere, like to lay low under a false identity. So he has to live like a regular Joe under this like other mob family for a bit, and he's very socially awkward is the best way to put it. Like uh he likes really bad comedy, and but everything's all business with him. Now what made this really weird was because I felt it was really under the radar, no one ever knew about it. But then I discovered they made like two movies, live action movies of this. And I was like,
Really?
wait a minute, really? Yeah, I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but it was on Netflix a while back.
Hmm.
I never did get around to watching it when I had Netflix, but it was yeah, it's just, you know, it's just really weird because he's supposed to be this, great, like, kind of all business kind of mindset of an assassin. Um, but he's like, because he's socially awkward in the way of like he hasn't quite developed the social skills a normal person does.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see that translated into an anime. I'm like, all right, well, it's most definitely on my list of pay attention to. Outside of that, there's not really a whole lot else. There's a few other things that might, but it's just like I don't feel like it's really worth talking about. And this is only like the first time I've actually in a long while that I've decided to look at the up and coming anime list. Mostly for the fact that I kind of take a standby approach and be like, all right, give it a couple weeks, see, and then I'll watch like 2 or 3 episodes in one go. And hopefully by episode 3, if it's getting an English dub, they usually, after 2 episodes, has been the pace for America, where 2 episodes in Japanese, then on episode 3 week, they'll release episode 1 in English. So by that time, I'm like, okay, if it's getting an English adaptation, I was kind of on the fence for it. I'll go ahead and give it a watch then.
Yeah, you don't
You
want to
know,
get stuck.
that way I can have it in the background, as it were.
Yeah, it makes
There
sense.
is one called Viral Hit, and I don't know anything about this other than they have this mean looking chicken on the manga cover.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's just like I have no idea of anything. I just remember like the manga of this one being like they just show this BA looking chicken, a rooster, I should say.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just I'm like I'm like I have no idea what that's gonna play like, but I showed you that one picture someone took of some like street vendor food or those Jujutsu chicken, and it has Itadori eating one of Setsuna's fingers, but it's a drumstick, and the other image to the side is of that chicken.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah. All right. Well, those are the ones that I'm most interested in, and some of the ones I'm kind of weary of, I suppose. Uh, I mean, allegedly they're coming out with another movie for Saint Seiya, which I'm like, that's a series they keep on flogging to death.
Just flogging.
And they are coming. Yeah, they're bringing they're doing the Blue Lock movie coming out too.
Oh yeah, I remember
So
seeing that because that's like going to be a side story about one of the side characters, Nagi, I think. So that piqued my interest. I was like, I'll probably see what's going on there. If it's a movie, that's even better because I can just get it done all at once, and not have to worry about keeping up with it every week. But
yeah,
yeah,
I mean that's so yeah. All right. Well, anything else on there that really strike your fancy? Because I don't know, this last season it was really hard for you to catch up or keep up with a lot of the anime going on. So
yeah,
anything you plan on finishing up before next season,
yeah.
or anything you're targeting?
I'm definitely gonna finish Free Run, because that's the last episode that has come out, right? Or at least I think it's supposed to come out on Thursday or today, or maybe
Probably.
I think, or maybe last week. I forget. But by next week, I want to have that finished. I have a good ways to go. I have like 10 episodes or something left in that, but I'm gonna get that finished, and then yeah, I'm gonna see what shakes out of this season. See, I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch Konosuba. I'm definitely gonna watch Demon Slayer. Those are the only ones I'm gonna commit to. And then I might, and then I'm probably gonna stay with. I'm almost certainly gonna stay with Delicious and Dungeon, and that's probably gonna fill most of my time. Anything beyond that, if it's like a surprise show, like a surprise good show then I might give it a try. But otherwise, I'm probably going to try to go back and watch some old anime that I missed from a long time ago because there's a pretty fat stack of those. So yeah, that's my plan right now.
Yeah, I still recommend you giving like Apothecary Diaries a shot. That was
Dude,
one of the solid
yeah,
ones from this year.
yeah, that would be one that I would go back for because you keep saying that, and it is high on a lot of lists. So I do want to watch that.
Yeah, I know that English dub Frierin's only have 25 out of 28
Yeah.
episodes. So that's it's a solid one. And I'm going to finish that one through as well. There's but yeah, there's been a lot of good ones this season. I was actually not disappointed. One of the new ones that are currently halfway through now is the Ninja Kamui. Uh, Still
Mm,
entertaining. Kind of irked a couple episodes ago because the character acts really dumb, and I have a hard time when characters act blindly dumb, and
yeah, takes you out of it.
that's yeah, it's just like it feels like it's not it's they're acting out of character
Yeah.
for the sake of the plot, and so but I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. So I'm still giving that one a shot, but mostly everything's coming to a head. So it'll be good to see how a lot of those come to an end and how they end up, I should say. All right, yeah, and then of course, Delicious in Dungeon is going to be. It's only halfway through. There's 24 episodes in that season or series. So
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. If you guys made it to this far, we appreciate it. And I know it's been a little longer one, but all right. Until next time, Nick, what are some words of wisdom from the man with 100 voices?
Always make sure to drink lots of water
You've
whenever
already said that one.
you're going to do voices, even your own regular voice. So that's slightly
So,
different than I said before, so counts as something new.
Nick, the man of 2 voices. All right.
And of two voices, yeah.
All right. Yeah, only know 2 languages, right? English and bad English. All right. Y'all, until next time, this has been another Dead Pixel, episode 68. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.